Nam mô Bổn Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni Phật. Kính bạch chư tôn đức, kính thưa quý liệt vị. Sau đây là phần thuyết giảng của Đại Đức Thích Ấn Tri, trú xứ Chùa Điều Ngự. Chúng con xin đê đầu cung thỉnh Đại Đức thuyết giảng và kính mời quý vị cùng lắng nghe.
Hello everyone. First of all, I would like to thank my master for giving me time to speak to everyone during this winter retreat hosted on IBC TV this year, the first time in over 30 years on TV. I would like to talk about awakening and enlightenment today. There are two paths for enlightenment and awakening in Buddhism. These two paths are called sudden and gradual awakening, which has its roots in Indian Buddhism. Gradual awakening has its importance in Chan Buddhism in China, Zen in Japan, and Tien in Vietnam. What does gradual cultivation mean? It means starting the Buddhist practice as a mere mortal, gradually going through stages of attainment, and eventually becoming a Buddha. What is sudden enlightenment? To become enlightened means to awaken to the present mind. This very awareness or sentience is a Bodhi mind that is originally pure. When enlightened, this mind is the Buddha. This mind is then the way. Attaining sudden enlightenment is to realize that if this present ordinary mind is free from any effort or pretension, then this very mind is true suchness. It is the profound Bodhi mind of the Tathagata, and it has the Buddha's wisdom. In cultural gradual cultivation, one gains understanding of the fundamental principle of truth by gradually perfecting one's actions or behavioral change with Buddhist practices. The term Subhatism points to sudden enlightenment in Buddhism, the idea that insight into the true nature or emptiness of the self is all at once. So, do we achieve awakening suddenly, or is it cultivated gradually through arduous practice, step by step? Actually, the moment of enlightenment is sudden, but the process of getting to that stage is gradual. Today, I would like to talk about awakening through the gradual process. I would like to talk about the 5 hindrances in Buddhism, which if gradually removed, lead to peace, tranquility, and awakening in your life. Before I begin, what are the 5 hindrances? They are negative states that impede our practice and lead us towards unwholesome action. They hinder our progress in meditation and also in life, and overtake our minds. The 5 hindrances impede the mind to being fully developed. They disrupt their ability to cultivate deep concentration and insight, making our progress difficult to seek enlightenment or awakening. Each one of these are, for the first one, sensual desire, or in Pali, kamachanda. It's wanting to seek happiness through the 5 base senses: sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. It is a desire to see beautiful things, the desire to hear pleasant sounds or music, the desire to smell pleasant perfumes, the desire to taste certain foods, the desire to touch and feel pleasant things. It is the root of all suffering and greed and desire, meaning it leads to suffering. The second is ill will or aversion, or in Pali called Bhyapada. It is thoughts and actions of hatred towards others or even yourself, coming from mild irritation all the way from annoyance to rage. Sloth and torpor, or in Pali, Tinamita, is listlessness or lack of energy, lack of interest, laziness, sleepiness, or mental sluggishness and weariness, the dullness of the mind. This is the opposite of right effort. Right effort in Buddhism is the persistence to enlightenment. The fourth one is worry and anxiety, or restlessness and worry, or in Pali, ukacha kuchaka, which refers to the mind, which is like a monkey, always swinging on to the next branch, never able to stay long with anything. It is also the agitation of the mind. It is tension, nervousness, the inability to calm the mind. The last hindrance is called doubt, or in Pali, vikichika, which means questioning one's own ability. It's asking yourself, can I do this? Or questioning the method of your practice. Is this the right way? It obscures one's clarity in one's practice. It stops one from progressing further. We live with the 5 hindrances our whole life. But in ordinary life, everyone in this life wants to be wealthy, well-liked, well-respected, live old, and be healthy, and be reborn into the heavenly realms. But how do you do this? It is difficult, but to be successful, you must develop deep virtue, faith, generosity, and wisdom. I will talk about the wisdom aspect today. Wisdom is knowing the 5 hindrances. Knowing where they're in your mind and knowing how to remove them gives you wisdom. They weaken your mind and make you dull or stupid. You don't know when the 5 hindrances are there. Like when you're getting sleepy, you're unaware of your sleepiness. Or like anger, you're unaware of being angry. When you're angry, you may say, I'm not angry, or I'm not annoyed. Hindrances, they weaken our wisdom. They are impurities of the mind and stop us from seeing the best for our own welfare. They stop us from seeing the best for ourselves and seeing the best for other people's welfare. They are very invisible and hard to get rid of. But to get rid of them, the first thing you have to do is to get to know them. Desire can be seen as okay, but in the extreme, it could become lustful and affairs where people cheat. When lust is in the mind, it could be a good idea to cheat on your partner, but after that, there is deep remorse, and an enormous amount of damage is then done to the couple and to the family. Shouting and being angry can seem good until someone decides to fight with you or pull a weapon on you. The more you nap and get sleepy, the more you are tired and dull and miss your days. You can never get back the time you missed in your life. The thing we know about time is you can never get it back once it's lost. Restlessness is being busy during the day or the week, never being calm, always feeling restless and doing things to increase it, instead of finding personal time to finding peace and to meditate more. The last hindrance, the 5th one, is doubt. It can be seen as a mood in the mind, where the Buddha gave the simile of doubt as being on a long journey, tiresome and unsafe, across the wilderness and not knowing when you will make it to the destination. It can be very paralyzing, not knowing where to go. Creating doubt is like more doubt, a vicious cycle. The second thing to do is to recognize it. So what do we do in hindrances if they are always there? Recognize them when they are strong. When you're at work and irritated, you can try to notice it. And the more you notice it, the more you can drive it away. These are thoughts to notice and feelings of the body to notice. To notice the hindrances or clues, to see if these are present. Maybe if you have a thought of anger, or if your heart is racing, then the hindrances might start to appear. Third is to acknowledge that hindrances are obstructions and drive us away from liberation and freedom. When they're in the mind, you cannot use the mind well. The Buddha compared this to gold. When gold has impurities in it, it is brittle, it is not wieldy, it is unmalleable, it is not shiny. But when these hindrances or impurities are removed, then that gold is then malleable, extremely bright, extremely lustrous, and the jeweler can make this gold anything from necklaces, brooches, or earrings. Likewise, the mind is naturally luminous, it is extremely bright, it is pure, it is alert. But when these hindrances are defiled, it is as if the mind is then dull, not powerful, brittle, not wieldy. but when they are removed, the mind is then bright. It is very happy. It is extremely powerful. It is very joyful. So happiness isn't something that you have to bring about, but it is also the absence of the hindrances. The Buddha said that once they are removed from the mind, you can direct anything towards it, whether it be true insight or true wisdom, or even gaining psychic powers. It is important to understand the hindrances are obstacles, because if we are angry, sometimes we feel justified to be angry, but after that, we may feel generally remorse towards yelling at someone or doing acts of anger towards someone. Some people may say they feel empowered being angry, but that is wrong. Anger can only cause more trouble. Anger is like a never-ending fire in your mind, constantly doing harm to yourself and doing harm to others. For greed. Some people think greed is good, even though it is very bad. With greed, you can never be satisfied with greed. There is a saying, it is not a person with little, but a person who wants more that is continually poor. People think desire is good, from sensual desires, such as eating nice food, reading a good book, watching a good film, resting on holidays. Surely they aren't all bad. But if we think sensual desires as an addiction, we can clearly see they are bad, such as drinking. Drinking can seem fun and harmless for many people, but for others, drinking can turn people into all alcoholics, and it could be devastating for others and their families' lives. But all forms of sensual desires can be seen as addictions, in a way not just from alcohol or cigarettes. There's always a drawback. As soon as you get the desire, you want it more. As soon as you take the drug or food, you want it more. The Buddha compares desire to the simile of that of a loan. You borrow it, but you have to give it back, including interest. Like you borrow some fine clothes. You may think to yourself, oh, these are very fine clothes, but soon you have to give it back, and then you will become disappointed. We have to understand that all the hindrances are not for our welfare. When they're in our mind, they're actually eating from our wisdom and from our liberation. But how do we remove them? The theme of how they all arise is because we give inappropriate attention to them in our minds. When we feed it and focus on it, it becomes stronger and stronger. Just to know if we focus on them inappropriately gives us a chance to remove it. Irritation can come from full-on rage, just from a single thought. Keep thinking about it makes the thought become stronger and stronger from our focus. So remove the thought as soon as you can. The Buddha compares this to the body. The body needs nourishment to survive. It is the same with the hindrances. Don't give the hindrances nourishment to survive, or else they will become bigger if focused. There is also another way to remove the 5 hindrances, through meditation. Each one has an antidote to cure. To remove sensual desire, do a meditation called a Shubha Bhavana. Meditate on the unpleasantness on what we see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. Meditate on seeing that every pleasant thing is impermanent, and if we cling and desire on these things, we will become disappointed and unhappy. That is called dukkha. We will also desire to own these things, something pleasant that we see, to own it. We may want to buy it and keep it for ourselves. That ownership will eventually also be impermanent. It can soon disappear from us. So that unhappiness that we derive from going after pleasure and pleasant things should be making us disappointed. So we should end up letting go of that desire. If you're feeling ill will or anger, or if you want to prevent anger, then you should do metta, or universal friendliness, or what I call benevolence or goodwill towards all beings, meditation. If we begin to think of all beings as suffering, everyone in this world, does not like pain. They all want pleasure and pleasant things. It is not only myself, but all beings desire pleasant things and hate unpleasant things. So we may wish all beings to be free from all pleasant things. To practice this, say to yourself when you meditate, may all beings be happy, comfortable, peaceful, and free from suffering, and the causes and conditions from suffering, wishing goodwill towards all beings. Before this meditation, we will become narrow-minded, but after you meditate this way, you will broaden your mind, not just for yourself, but for all beings. This meditation, while wishing all beings with happiness and health and no suffering, brings compassion, because we are deeply interested in the welfare for all beings, which brings karuna. Think about the mother who sacrifices all comfort and peace for her child. In the same way, we should think of all beings as others, as important as ourselves. This is called karuna. When we do this, our selfishness disappears in the interest for all other beings. When our selfishness disappears, all unhappiness disappears, because self-centeredness brings unhappiness. When you think, I want this, I want that, I don't have this, I don't have that, that brings unhappiness. And when you meditate more, you have another part of your mind called mudita, next level of happiness, the happiness of selflessness, the happiness for others, because when your self disappears, we are happy. It is a calm, peaceful, tranquil state of happiness. It is not an exciting emotion. Our mind is then centered within. We are not interested in what happens in the world and are free from the 8 worldly concerns of life, which we all face, which are gain and loss, fame and ill fame, praise and blame, pleasure and pain. So this meditation itself can lead to the highest state of the mind, called upekkha, or equanimity, as we are not absorbed by any of the 8 worldly concerns. Next, if you're feeling sleepy or lazy, simply go for a walking meditation or exercise. This will give you energy and develop willpower. You can also meditate on the suffering of impermanence or the recollection of death, called Maran Anusati meditation. This exercise is taken in order to simulate more effort and zeal into your Buddhist practice. The meditator reflects on the briefness and fragility of life and the numerous directions in which death can come, maybe from a snake bite or an accident or an illness or an assault. We are all subject to aging, disease, and death. And if we begin to think about death before we die, we should purify our mind, and it is very important to purify our mind. And this is why it is important to meditate before we die. We know that life is uncertain, and death is certain, and unpredictable, and short. So it is important to think about purifying the mind before we die. So this will help us overcome any laziness and sleepiness. You may think to yourself daily, today effort should be made. Who knows if tomorrow death will come? Next, for worry and anxiety, worries are always about the past. We worry about what happened in the past and what we have lost. Generally, anxiety is mainly talking about the future. We may think something might happen in the future. Maybe we think about losing our job, or we might think we might fail our examination, or something that might happen to us in the future that might be unfortunate. In order to overcome this feeling, we must practice breathing meditation called anapanasati. Breathing, relaxing the body, and practicing breathing meditation, mainly to relax the body and to calm the mind in this breathing meditation. It is not concentration, like some people think breathing meditation is concentration. It's mainly about relaxing the mind and calming the body. To do this, sit up straight, peacefully, or lie down. Think to yourself, relaxing the body, I breathe in. Relaxing the body, I breathe out. Know when you breathe in short, know when you breathe in long. Try to calm your body. Try to do this for 5 to 10 minutes a day, or maybe half an hour to an hour a day. This will benefit you greatly and reduce anxiety and worry. Lastly, for doubt, modern neuroscientists know that there are two parts of the brain, the emotional part of the brain and the thinking part of the brain. The emotional is the animal part of the brain. This is why when the baby is born, the first thing that happens to he or she is cry, because it is very unpleasant when they first breathe. It is also very unpleasant when they first open their eyes, because light touches it. And it is also very unpleasant to feel touched, so they cry. So it is very important to know that when we are born, we have this animal mind and we have this emotional agitation. But later, when that baby is older, it is able to think and to reason and to understand things with the logical mind. So the thinking part is the real human mind. It is this human being that is able to think and to reason out. That is the ultimate thing that the Buddha is able to point out, that the Buddha tells us to overcome the animal mind and to transcend the animal mind and to be at a fully human state, the supernormal awakened state. So it is very important to stop this animal nature, which is to get emotionally agitated. So we learn to calm the mind. We're learning to gain freedom from the animal mind. And we are able to think and understand the truth about life. The truth about life is that everything that is dependent upon conditions is unstable. And what is unstable to us is unpleasant. And what is then unpleasant is not under our powers. And what is not under our powers is not in the mind. Therefore, even this body or mind, anything that we identify with is impermanent, it is unpleasant, it is impersonable, and it is not mine. So we have to give up everything, and it is only by giving up everything that we gain all freedom from suffering, and we gain freedom from samsara, the cycle of birth and death. When these things are completely gone, it's as if these similes are gone, stated by the Buddha. The Lord Buddha compared sensory desire to taking out a loan. Any pleasure one experiences through the five senses must be repaid through the unpleasantness of separation, loss, or hungry emptiness, which follow relentlessly when the pleasure is used up. As with any loan, there is also a matter of interest, and thus, as the Buddha said, the pleasure is small compared to the suffering repaid. So it is the feeling of finally repaying a loan that we remove ourselves from desire. The Lord Buddha compared ill will and anger to that of being sick. Just as sickness denies one freedom, happiness, and health, so ill will denies one the freedom and happiness of peace. So once you are no longer sick, imagine the relief you have from removing anger. Next, the Lord Buddha compared laziness to being imprisoned or in a cramped, dark cell, unable to move freely in the bright sunshine outside. When sloth and torpor has disappeared, it's as if you're being freed from being imprisoned from all that time lost. Next, the Buddha compared restlessness to that of being a slave, continuing having to jump to orders of a tyrannical boss, who always demands perfection and never lets one stop. So imagine the peace you have once being freed. The Buddha likened doubt to being lost in the desert, not recognizing any landmarks. Once you arrive at the destination, it must be great losing all that doubt. It is like being freed from prison, relief from debt, no longer sick, no longer a slave, and arriving from a journey when we free each of our hindrances. So the important thing in meditation is to overcome all of these emotional disturbances and to calm and to purify the mind, to make it tranquil. And that is the meaning of the five hindrances. We have to give up the five hindrances, which means to give up all of these agitations and to calm the mind and make it tranquil. That is the meaning of nirvana too, the non-shaking of the mind, the imperturbable and serenity of the mind. The mind that can never be disturbed by whatever happens in the world. Once freed from the hindrances, you may even gain arahanthood, the deathless state, everlasting peace and tranquility and happiness, but only if you put in the effort to remove the hindrances, to observe the hindrances, to recognize as each one of them appears, and try your best to diminish or remove each of them entirely, even if you take us 1% a day to remove it. Once freed from the hindrances, you may then become peaceful. And also, may you all have peace and happiness, and no suffering causes and conditions of suffering on each and every one of your journeys to finding tranquility. And each day, try to purify your mind, even if it's just 1% a day. My speech is now finished. Today, we will now share our merits to the 10 directions. Nguyện đem con đức ngài hướng về khắp tất cả đệ tử và chúng sanh đều chân thành Phật đạo.
Nam mô Bổn Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni Phật. Kính bạch chư tôn đức, kính thưa quý liệt vị. Sau đây là phần cảm tạ của Hòa thượng Thích Viên Lý trụ trì chùa Diệu Pháp. Chúng con xin cung thỉnh Hòa thượng.
Nam mô Bổn Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni Phật. Kính bạch chư tôn đức giáo phẩm tăng ni, kính thưa chư liệt vị. Khác với hơn 30 năm qua, năm nay chùa Diệu Pháp đã không thể tổ chức khóa tu học mùa đông nhân dịp lễ tạ ơn. Lý do là vì đại dịch Covid-19 đã và đang đe dọa một cách nghiêm trọng. Dù vậy, nghĩ đến cái tiền đồ của đạo Pháp, nhất là sự lợi lạc của muôn sinh, chư tôn đức giáo phẩm tăng ni đã dành thời giờ quý báu của mình để thuyết giảng cũng như hướng dẫn cho đại chúng tu học. Và nhất là những hành giả khắp nơi với đạo tâm bất khả tư nghị. Quý vị đã đầu tư thời giờ quý báu của mình để tham dự khóa tu học. Sự tham dự của quý vị là một biểu tỏ khát ngưỡng thường cầu Phật đạo hạ hóa chúng sinh. Chúng tôi tin rằng với cái khát ngưỡng trong chánh đó, chắc chắn là quý vị sẽ thành tựu được một cách viên mãn những gì mà quý vị ước nguyện. Và hôm nay khóa tu học mùa đông online của chùa Diệu Pháp đã chấm dứt. Dù khóa tu học chấm dứt, nhưng mà sự tu học của chúng ta vẫn tiếp tục và tiếp tục một cách lâu dài. Mong rằng sang năm chúng ta sẽ có dịp gặp nhau tại chùa Diệu Pháp để cùng nhau tu học như là chúng ta đã cùng nhau tu học trong suốt hơn 3 thập niên qua. Một lần nữa thay mặt chùa Diệu Pháp xin thành tâm đảnh lễ tri ân chư tôn đức giáo phẩm tăng ni và hết lòng cảm niệm đạo tình vô cùng cao quý của chư liệt vị. Nam mô Thượng Tinh Tấn Bồ Tát Ma Tát Tát Đại chứng minh